We're so glad you joined us for this session on inner guidance and attunement for helpers and healers. In this session, Benita Silver explores how chronic caregiving, empathy, responsibility can quietly tax the nervous system over time. Drawing on her 4 decades as a psychotherapist, her work as an intuitive healer and a spiritual mentor, Benita offers compassion, practical insights into restoring regulation, reconnecting with yourself, and caring for others without losing yourself in the process. Happy to have you here, Benita.
Hey, Sandra, it's great to see you again. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Benita, for helpers and healers who are deeply attuned to others, how do you recognize when they have lost attunement with themselves?
All right. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, the greatest gift that we offer as helpers and healers is the tool of ourselves, which is attunement first and foremost with ourselves. And so, when we're kicked off our kilter, when we're experiencing dissonance, what ifs, anxiety, muscular tension, there are all kinds of indicators within our system that are telling us that we've derailed from our true essence, from our attunement with others, because been kicked off our own kilter. And so it's about paying attention to the other self and the fields that we create in this attunement with self, other, and source.
Many helpers intellectually, they know the importance of self-care, yet they still override their own needs. What do you see happening internally that makes that pattern so persistent with so many people?
I think a lot of it is within the culture that's been imposed upon us as helpers and healers, that we are expected to serve others, often at a cost to ourselves, which is not the way to go. And we see this in the medical profession. I mean, in terms of doctors who are training and, having 12-hour shifts, which really is unsustainable. Within the mental health field, in terms of that we are here to serve clients, and it's all about the giving, giving, giving. And again, then we adopt those beliefs, those perceptions that we're not doing enough for others, and we forget about ourselves.
So, why are helpers and healers especially vulnerable to nervous system depletion, even when they love the work they're doing? Because most of us are very passionate about it.
At our core, we really want to serve humankind. And we want, I know for me, that the greatest gift I experience is witnessing the evolution of consciousness right before me, my clients' growth, their attunement with themselves, their resonance, their knowing and embodying who they are at the core. And so that is the greatest gift. And so we're earnest. And oftentimes we also think that we are the givers of healing to others when it's a co-creative process. My right earring is rapping on me.
Well,
I just got a message. Maybe I'll just take these off.
okay.
Okay. All right. So, okay.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually an important point because we do co-create, and more times than not, we're really the facilitators of it, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. And, we have to watch out for what I call is the slippery dick of the ego. It kind of insinuates its way in there, and then it takes us over and it says, we should, and I'm the healer. And also, I mean, there is benefit to helping others. And the reality is that most of us are the wounded healers. And so we're not true altruists. We do want to serve others, but oftentimes it's at a service to ourselves. I mean, I don't know how many times I hear from my clientele, as well as my own experience, is that I'm sitting with a client and they are providing for me guidance about my own internal process that I'm undergoing at the time. So, yeah.
I can see that. How does chronic empathy or responsibility really just in a quiet way start to tax the nervous system over time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that our primary focus becomes the client. And again, that we may bring the work home, we may second guess ourselves, we may have difficulty with sleeping, we may should on ourselves, I should have, that kind of thing. We may beat ourselves up. But the thing that's so key about all of that is all of those human experiences, the doubt, the questioning, the discomfort, the dissonance that we experience, whether it's mentally or in our bodies, that also provides us with guidance in terms of that those parts of us are wanting for us to feel in alignment, to feel calm, to feel certain and clear. And so it's about trusting that and acknowledging what arises. And so it's kind of like what ends up happening, the way I see it, is that we are human and we have a human experience, which involves thoughts, feelings, and actions. And we're also a soul. And so when we're experiencing kind of the dissonance, then that's the human experience. I call that the clangs that occur. We can kind of feel them in our body, tension, or it just, it's kind of like, ugh, and that is calling for attention. And we also have our soul's guidance, the intuition, a sense of resonance, a sense of calm, well being, expansion, high vibration, which is also providing us with guidance. And the idea is that we're wanting mutuality, we're wanting like a sacred union of the human experience as well as the soul's experience. And then we can move forward in resonance with ourselves. It's not about disregarding the clangs, it's about honoring them and inquiring of them. Like, what guidance are they trying to provide me? And so this internal experience represents a conflict, oftentimes, between our soul, our higher self, and the human. And so when we're able to weave them together, honor it all, because that is what we are, the all of the human, the all of the soul, then we can find alignment. And then we can trust our intuition to guide us, as well as address the doubts. And with that resonance within, then we're better able to attune to our clients, because we're not these invisible screens. I mean, I was taught as a therapist that it was all about the client, and that I wasn't even supposed to really, I was supposed to be like this blank screen. And I realized, very early on, when as a therapist, when a supervisor of mine told me to stop crying because I would feel empathy for my clients and that they're suffering. And I would just naturally well up in tears. I wasn't out of control or anything. But she kept telling me I had to stop crying. And what I realized was I tried because I was young, and I was digging my fingers into my palm, trying not to cry. And then I questioned, where's my focus? My focus is on digging my fingers in and trying not to cry, which derailed me from my focus and my attunement with my client. And then I realized that's fucked up. I'm not going to do that. And I would tell my clients up front that, hey, this is something you need to know about me. I will have tears well up. I'm totally cool with it. And that my work is to maintain presence and awareness of you so that I can serve you. And so there's the attunement. It's once we drop into this higher self, our higher self, then I feel for me, what ends up happening is that I'm present with my client. I am attuned heart to heart with them and soul to soul with them. They can feel a resonance with my energy, which allows them to drop into their higher self. And so we have what I call is this horizontal attunement. We're connected. And that then we're creating this field of the we, and that I bring myself in, and that they bring themselves, their parts, their human parts, their soul. And then we're tapping into the vertical attunement of soul, of source, which is the soul of them, the soul of me, and a higher consciousness. And we just trust what is present, whatever arises. And so, yeah, that's where the magic actually occurs, is when we enter into the mystery of the present moment and we're curious. And then there's guidance, whether it's from our human self that's saying, oh, this doesn't resonate, or the intuition of the soul.
That was very powerful. And I love the direction that you took that. It's amazing that you were able to connect and make that decision very early on in your career with that. So you've talked about the intuition a couple of times with that in your work. How does building relationship with one's inner guidance or intuition change the way helpers relate to responsibility, like the perfectionism or the just saying yes too often?
Yeah. It's, I feel like the more that we tune into ourselves and that we're listening to that, we're aware of the perfectionism, we're feeling kind of a motor running, we're feeling like we got to do something. And then it's like we're chasing something ahead in the future. And that then we're trying to make things happen rather than slowing down, and we come back to presence with ourself in the moment. And the beautiful thing about being present with oneself in the moment is it's totally streamlined. I mean, it's like all I got to do is come back to me, come back to me, come back to my awareness of myself, come back to my awareness of my client. What are they saying? How are they feeling? And then it's like, yeah, it's just a beautiful process. So yeah, it's I mean, we do get caught up in the roles, and it's our bodies provide us with a beautiful instrument of discernment. And our minds too, when we're working, when we're thinking, the what ifs, the I gotta, the I should have, all this stuff. I mean, the I gotta is about the future. It's about going into the future. I gotta do this, which I did not do. Or the I shoulda brings us back to the past in terms of what we did, which wasn't good enough. And those thoughts are converging in the present. They're informing us right here and right now, but they're taking us out of presence by shooting us into the future of what we got to do and shooting us back to the past in terms of what we didn't do. And so then it's like, let me pay attention to that. What is the essence of what those thoughts, those statements that I'm telling myself are trying to gear me to? And then it's like, then we can discern, we can really explore, we can talk to ourselves in terms of, okay, did I do the best job possible in that moment? One of the things that I learned just with my first therapist was that she said, you cannot see what you cannot see. And so then it's like when we see it, and we often see things after the fact, then we beat ourselves up. And so in that moment, though, that we were taking action or we were talking, we did the best we could in that experience. You know, we don't beat up babies who have not yet walked. You know, they're still crawling. They're doing the best they can, and they will evolve to the point where they will, typically, they'll walk. And so we often beat ourselves up for not seeing, not knowing, and not accepting where we were at that time, wishing it had been different. But it's like we can celebrate that awareness. It's like, oh, now I'm aware of how I can be or what I can say. Tuning into that as guidance, not as berating oneself, but guiding oneself. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So I feel like that there's sort of an in-between state, though. So you
Hmm.
talk about the attunement and coming back to presence, and the end point all makes sense to me. But many times as people are caught up in their juggling work, family, service, and all of those things, and they're teetering on burning out, like, are there smaller steps that they can get there? I mean, the end process is simple, but we usually don't see it as simple. We see it as overwhelming,
Yeah,
which
because we,
means we never get to the simple part.
right. Yeah, and the simple part really is, from my perspective, it's like we do get overwhelmed because our lives are so full, like you're saying. You know, we have family, we have responsibilities, we got to cook dinner, clean the dishes, we have a business clientele, we're trying to make money, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, that is all happening. And that it's about, like, in the internal family systems model, it's about being the capital letter I in the middle of the storm. And if we're not aware that we're overwhelmed, then we can't do anything. We're run by that overwhelm, that anxiety, and we're going. And that's why, for me, I promote, yeah, the greatest power that we have is coming back to presence with ourselves, which is a practice. It's a continual practice. And
Okay.
that what's beautiful about it is that we can practice this any moment of the day. I mean, Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful excerpt in his book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, about washing the dishes, to wash the dishes, not to get them done, but being with the dishes. And this body, the senses, are what ground us to the experience of the present moment. If we're attuned to what we're hearing, if we're attuned to what we see, truly, you know, smelling the flowers, seeing the beauty of nature, feeling our footsteps on the ground, you know, being embraced by a loved one, and that we're present in those moments, those things just help the nervous system relax. And then when we enter in the present moment, we end up stepping over the threshold into the infinite and the eternal. And there's this space that occurs, a window of opportunity in that moment when we can be aware of, we don't have to go so fast. Do I have a choice? Oh, I see that I'm anxious. What can I do to bring myself into alignment? And it's different for everyone. But the senses, they assist us in anchoring into the present. And again, when we're present, then our whole nervous system relaxes because each moment presents itself one after another, and we're dropped in, and we're present, and we're feeling. And we're allowing ourselves spaciousness, time, and attention to ourselves, development of relationship with ourselves.
Okay, that was beautiful. Your thoughts on some early signs that you have seen that someone might be able to recognize when a helper's nervous system is asking for attunement rather than more effort or self-care task?
Oh, well, burnout is a good one. Yeah. And, it's kind of like what is dominating, what's taking up real estate in my mind? Am I feeling, am I thinking constantly about work, about my clients, about the what ifs, about the I gottas? You know, it's like, and that is, I think, one of the biggest signs that we're on a road to burnout because we are then outwardly directed and we're attempting to affect change in someone else. And so it's like, then, it's that we're not really spending time with ourselves to enjoy life. And we can only enjoy life in the present moment. We can only live in the present moment. And so, again, the awareness is key. And so, mindfulness, again, is kind of the base, is foundational for us as helpers and healers. It enhances our attunement, our listening, our compassion, our connection with our clients.
Okay. So how can the helpers begin to recognize when they're operating from burden rather than grounded or a resource self? I feel a lot of times people don't recognize that they're coming from a state of burden.
Yeah, yeah. And that's in the IFS language or modality is called being blended with a part. That the part takes us over, and then we see the world from its perspective. The overwhelm, the fear, the doubt, the I gottas. And so we're not aware of that. And we're acting from it. And the idea is, can we get some separation from it? And not trying to impose separation on that part. So the first part is like, tuning into the body. How relaxed is the body? And if there's not the relaxation, it's like we can spend a moment with the body, that part. What's it trying to tell us? And trusting whatever comes up, no matter how bizarre. It's kind of like that our bodies and these parts within us express themselves. And that if we're paying attention to them, they're just like people, really, the parts within us. They're just like people. They love us focusing on them. They love for us to connect with them. They love that we're inquiring of them, getting to know them from an open state of, let's say, curiosity or compassion. Okay. If we're coming in with an agenda of, I don't like that part, I want to get rid of it, then the part, just like a person, is going to become defensive and shut down or disappear or walk away or get angry or whatever. And so it's like, can we drop into a state of curiosity about our experience, about muscular tension, about the repeated perseverative thoughts of the I gotta. It's like, oh, I keep thinking, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this. And then it's like, okay. and then being aware that I'm doing. And oftentimes with the doing, we get exhausted. We also do for others, and then we develop resentment toward others when in fact we're the ones who are the doing. And so it's kind of like, can we develop the awareness? Like if there's resentment, for instance, that is like a red flag saying, pay attention to me. I'm resentful towards you because there's a need in me that is not being met. And rather than blaming the individual, the other individual, it's not about blaming oneself though, but it's about taking an accounting of what needs of mine are not being met. What do I need in the equation? And then being able to sit with that, to recognize that, honor that, and express that, setting boundaries about the giving. I mean, it kind of, again, one of the things that happens so often is that the learning comes after the fact. If I'm giving, and then I'm resentful, then I'm like, I'm in trouble, okay? Because something ain't working, okay? And because if we're going to give, then we want to give generously, but not necessarily selflessly. We want to be in attunement with ourselves, feeling good about the giving. So the resentment is a red flag that then provides an inroads to, why am I resentful? What need do I have that's not being met? And the reality is, when we take a reckoning within ourselves, then we are actually empowering ourselves to really, because we're the only one who can be responsible for getting our needs met. And so discerning what the need is, then I can change the dynamic and I can start expressing what my need is. But the important thing is, oftentimes, I mean, I've seen this with me, is I'll say, okay, here's my boundary. And then someone will just kind of like, they'll work on me and I'll collapse. And then, but the thing is, that's me. And so I bring it back to me and I'm like, okay, I did it again. I would say I was setting a boundary and I didn't hold to the boundary. So it's about trusting the emotion. Okay, I'm resentful. It's telling me I have a need. I'm articulating the need. I'm stating the need. But then it's my job to adhere to my own boundary, which is a big, I mean, that's taking action. Yeah. And then, but with all that, the trusting of the emotion, the articulating it, verbalizing it, and the behavior, then we're coalescing within ourselves. And we're also expressing a congruent picture, a congruency to others, and that people will know that we're meaning business. And it's not at a cost to them. But again, when we bring our whole self and we're expressing our vulnerability, hey, I realized that I, went a little overboard, or, yeah, I realized you wanted to see me today at 1 o'clock, and then trusting like, oh, they want to see me at 1 o'clock. Here it is, 10 a.m. It's like, oh, it's like that clang is like saying, not necessarily so. Then I'm watching oneself. How can I express to them this boundary with compassion? I'm sorry, I can't see you today at 1 o'clock, but I can see you tomorrow, or I can see you at 3. Something that works with oneself. Because again, we're the tools that are helping to facilitate healing in others.
Well, that was a lot. I love how you weaved all those pieces together to make sense of it all, because it took all the pieces to really understand. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the person who's built their identity on being a
Mm,
long-term caretaker, and that's who they are? Are they at higher risk for nervous system dysregulation?
yeah, they are. They are. I mean, I think all of us, when we're born, one of the primary tasks for us is to define a sense of self. Who am I? What do I stand for? What are my values? Okay, and when we adopt, the you know, it's like the sense of identity of I am a helper, I'm a healer, I am a therapist. It's kind of like the way that I see it is that it makes sense that we're doing that because we all want to have this sense of self. It's very natural. And especially as we're learning early in our careers. And, it's kind of like it's a tough thing to express because I'm in an opposite kind of experience right now. But it's like the adopting the belief of I am the healer, we have to watch out for it also because it's kind of like, is it coming from like a place of ego that I'm a healer and that people are seeking me out? And the thing is, then we're getting reinforcement from outside of ourselves. People are coming to us, we're helping them. But we have to watch that slippery dick of the ego because it's kind of like it can actually build a not it's like the opposite of a reservoir within ourselves because we're looking for that fulfillment outside of ourselves. We're looking for the validation, the adoration, because at the core, we have kind of a shaky sense of self. And the only sustainable source of really self of identity is right here, is ourselves. And so it can be very contrary. And then it's kind of like we've seen this. I mean, there's been so much going on, like with gurus who have been, and I'm not saying this about any of these folks who are in the audience, but it's kind of like being aware of what's coming up in our culture.
Mhm.
That we see a lot of gurus who have fed on the adoration of their disciples.
Mhm.
And then it's like it's not enough and they want more. And then the ego takes hold of them and drives them rather than being aware. It's like, oh, here I am. Somebody said a good thing about me. That feels good. And let me watch that. Let me be aware of that. Okay. Am I allowing that to fuel who I am? And and the thing is though, back to like the whole idea of the role of the helper or the healer. As we're developing a sense of personality, our likes, our dislikes, our needs, our wishes, who we choose as partners, who we choose as clients, it's like these roles that we adopt, I kind of um, I use the analogy of when you plant a sapling tree in the ground. It's got a very tender root system, and so there are these struts, these supports that help hold the sapling in place, which can then assure that the roots will take hold more deeply. And then when there's a strong root system, like a strong identity of this is who I am at my essence, not necessarily my roles, then we can remove those supports which have loaned a sense of identity. I'm mother, I'm sister, I'm father, I'm therapist. we can take them away because we know who we are in terms of our personality, but also the core values that we hold, trusting our one of the things that I follow more often than not is my inspiration. What am I feeling inspired about? What do I feel passionately about? This is how we're intended to live our lives, is from a place of passion and inspiration, excitement. This is like our soul saying, go girl, go for it. And when we're feeling like I should, and there's all that conflict, then there's something there that is also worthy of exploration, that is trying to provide us with guidance. So, yeah, the role of the helper and healer. And so, bottom line, I've been in many different I provide a lot of different modalities of facilitating healing for others, with others. It's a co-creative process. As a psychotherapist, as an intuitive, I've been a tantrika, a medicine guide, and a space holder. And in every arena that I've seen is that there are those who are earnestly involved in doing their work. And my sense is your audience, is earnestly involved in doing their work. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't be here. And then there are those who are like adopting the role of medicine worker, whatever, tantrika, therapist, healer, and which kind of substantiates a sense of self. And so it's like, let me be aware of that ego, because that will be my downfall in reality. And so when we're able to drop into our most authentic self, whether it's crying, and it doesn't mean telling our clients all about our personal lives. I mean, I used to have a supervisor who would tell me all about her kids. And I'm like, what the heck? This is my supervision. It became about her. And so, but the thing is, like, if we're able to just kind of come back to ourselves and say, okay, so this feels good. And okay, and what are my core values? What's my vision of who I am becoming? What is my inspiration? What is that guidance? Then we can work with the personality, the ego within the personality. And it's trying to serve us. It really wants to help us, because at the core, there's a feeling like we're not good enough or we need to be better. I mean, it's flip side of the coin. And it's really trying to help us. So it's not a bad thing. It's just about observing it, being in relationship with it, helping it to integrate into the whole of our being. WHOLE. I call it the holes within the whole of our being.
I love it. I have to tell you, there's a couple of themes that have come up throughout the day, and they're all interconnecting and flowing together.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
Different
that.
sessions, and I was like, like, you can't even make this stuff up. There's some really interesting synchronicities here. So, as we're going to end this conversation just in a couple sentences, what would you most want helpers and healers to remember about staying attuned to themselves while they care for others?
Yeah, to really not forget yourself, to really be aware of the feeling of resonance within your being. And the resonance typically is a state of relaxation, excitement, expansion. That's your soul that's saying, yeah. And also to give time and presence to the dissonance, to the clangs that are also attempting to help us and that we often think negatively about. But it's like embracing it all, the all within ourselves, and helping it all integrate so that we can serve others in a
Well,
healthy way. Yeah.
yeah. This session, it has been a powerful reminder that caring for others begins with staying connected to ourselves.
Mhm.
Attunement, compassion, sustainability, they're not luxuries for helpers and healers. They're essential.
Yeah.
Thank you, Benita, for your wisdom, presence, and for offering such compassionate path back to self-connection. I always enjoy connecting with you in our conversations. To learn more about Benita and her work, you can go to her website, fearlesshealers.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. It was a delight.